It's not happy National Signing Day anymore. Tennessee outside the top 10. That's where they're going to finish. They've hovered right around 12 for the better part of, I would say, 6, 7, 8 months. Once the class started to solidify a little bit. So we have it on the YouTube page right now, and I would love for you to vote. It is our poll question, not today's tough question. That comes up a little bit later with Jimmy Himes. Jimmy Himes, the one, the only, the Hall of Famer, the legend, join us. So National Signing Day and the Vols don't have a top 10 class. How does that sit with you? Vote now. Got one selection, still building, all good. Then you've got another that's kind of down the middle. I can live with it. And then you've got the third, Josh Heupel has to recruit better. Where would you fall out of those three choices? And go ahead and vote. We certainly appreciate it. And Fallout Zone, I'm with you, man. I miss those days. I can remember one prospect signing with, I think it was Julian Battle that signed with Virginia or Virginia Tech, and his parents didn't write off on it. So you had to be a certain age. And Julian Battle at like 7 o'clock that night, 7 o'clock in the morning, he was going to somewhere in Virginia, and 7 o'clock that night, he was coming to Tennessee. I got a ton of stories like that. So, all right, here we go. Hit that like button, subscribe. We greatly appreciate that. It means a lot. The channel continues to grow, and we love you guys. You're part of our community, and I mean that. And our sponsors also, we love them. They're part of our community. And if we tell you that they are fantastic to go to, you can absolutely trust us. No question about it. Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Haun. Enjoy life better when you see better. Local vision service for LASIK, cataract surgery, and regular eye examination. ccteyes.com. ccteyes.com. All right, Caleb. So Tennessee, given that poll question that we have up on the YouTube page right now, where would you fall in that? Still building, all good. I can live with it. Josh Heupel has to recruit better.
I think long-term he does, but I don't think it's anything to worry about this year, believe it or not. And for some context, and actually we're going to talk about this later in the show with returning production, but for some context, Michigan has barely had top 10 classes over the past few years. I think they've had one, and I broke this down with Jim Harbaugh's my video on Jim Harbaugh on Sunday. The focus on Michigan was to get everybody to come back knowing they would be a more disciplined, focused team if they have more experience, and get in an age of NIL when players are transferring from place to place all the time. Dave, I think it's a safe bet. If you have the number one recruiting class and you have 10 5-stars, even Georgia, I bet only 6 of those 5-stars are at Georgia within, say Georgia gets 10 5-stars. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they get 10. I bet even the best programs only keep 60% of their 5-stars within 2 years nowadays in age of NIL.
Well, but the transfer portal is a factor in a lot of the recruiting rankings, right? They rejudge these guys.
No, they do. These are just recruiting rankings for the 2024 class. That's the talent composite rankings you're talking about. This is just recruiting rankings. Okay, I don't think it's a big.
So let me ask you, where are they in the talent composite rankings?
That's not out yet for 2024.
They need to be top 5 in that consistently, I believe. And Tennessee, and the reason is because you're trying to overcome the most talented program in the nation, and that's Georgia. And I'm sorry, you can be insightful, you can be innovative, you can be all those things if you're Josh Heupel, but Jimmys and Joes win games, not X's and O's for the large part. So I think it has to be better. I'm actually going to say Josh Heupel has to recruit better, which is only 7% of the vote. Now, ideally, here's the way this thing is going to shake out. And I told you the market would shake itself out. And this is the way it's going to shake itself out. Hit that like button. Go ahead and subscribe. The way it's going to shake itself out is that the good high school recruiting teams like Georgia, like Alabama, maybe not Alabama because Saban's gone, but the good ones are still going to be good. Those guys aren't going to get a lot of cash. So you're going to be able to save your cash to retain players and go into the portal and bring players in. That means that they're almost separate departments within a football office. That means you should still be darn good in recruiting if you built those relationships. And I don't think that Josh Heupel wants to go into year 5, 6, 7 without a top 5 class. Would you agree with that?
Actually, I would disagree with that. And I'm just going to break it down why.
Okay.
Hey, Dave,
Lay it on me.
Guess where Michigan was in talent composite rankings in 2023?
Lay it on me.
They were number 14, barely ahead of Florida. Because here's what talent composite rankings can't quantify. And this is where, in an age of transfer portal NIL, it's not just about talent composite rankings. It's about experience. It's about keeping your team together. And you saw that in the Rose Bowl when Michigan played Alabama. Alabama was the more talented team. I think you watched that game. I watched that game. We all watched that game coming away thinking Alabama had at least more talent than Michigan. But we also saw Michigan as a much more disciplined team, didn't we?
Agreed.
And that's why they won the game. That's going to be the difference in this era. This is where you were ahead of the curve. And I'm going to give you a lot of credit for this. You said as the market works itself out in the era of the transfer portal, NIL would be more focused on, there would be a greater focus on retaining players than adding new talent. Have you not noticed that's exactly what Tennessee did this offseason?
Yes.
They focused on retaining players. I think because of that era, because of the NIL era and the transfer portal, having raw talent doesn't have as much value as it had 5 years ago. And the reason it doesn't have the same level of value is because you need the combination of raw talent and having played together for a while. We're entering an era where it's going to be like basketball, where you can't build a dynasty off one and dones. John Calipari has one national title in his career, given all of his NBA draft picks, because one and dones experience to a certain degree is a factor over one and dones. And I'm not some old guy that's like, you've got to play the seniors. The 3 years of experience matters so much. No, I'm not that guy.
Too early for the voice for me. Too early for the voice.
But the reason I'm really serious about this is that having the most talented team this year is not the same as having the most talented team in 2015, because chances are the most talented team this year has played together half as long as the most talented team in 2015 did. And I think in the age of NIL and transfer portal, it is important to keep players more than it is to go after talent. And that's actually going to give an advantage to how teams apply their NIL. And I think Tennessee is applying it on, let's try to keep, yes, they spent the big bucks on Nico Iamaleava, and now there's a lawsuit over it. Okay. But at the end of the day, their big focus was keeping players this year. And that's a huge advantage.
Let me ask you a couple of quick hitters. And the message board, you can jump in on this, and Fallout Zone, I'm going to steal your thoughts on another 10-win season. So I'm going to start with that. Another 10-win season, and Tennessee jumps in the recruiting rankings. Do you agree or disagree with that?
If it's just 10 wins, I actually disagree. I think Tennessee has to jump way. I think Tennessee has to do way better than 10 wins. Because
I think Tennessee jumps into the 7-8 category just by natural boost if they're 10, because they make the college football playoff. To get beyond that, be considered elite, be in the 1, 2, or 3 spot, I think they've got to go deeper. So I guess I half agree with you, half disagree, half agree.
Okay, that's fair. Splitting the baby over here, King Solomon. We got a King Solomon. We got Dave Solomon.
I hate that term. It's such a terrible graphic. My question is, the second quick hitter, is there any concern that Josh Heupel won't be an elite recruiter, especially if NIL tends to even itself out? I mean, are the concerns about Josh Heupel being a recruiter, which that was the major concern when he was hired, are they over and done with?
I think that, no, I don't think there's much of a concern, because I think Josh Heupel has the base level of work ethic in recruiting. I think that's shown. Now, he doesn't have, I'll give him some credit, he doesn't have Lane Kiffin's level of recruiting, flying helicopters to high school games to try to lure players, as you remember, Dave, very well, right? With him and Ed Orgeron.
Yep.
He doesn't have that, but I do think he has a base level. And I think once you're at that base level, usually the program starts to sell. The program and your wins start to sell themselves. So as long as Heupel's winning and Tennessee's NIL is up to snuff, I don't think there's a lot of extra work Heupel has to do. I think, and this has been I think when you look at the success of recruiting, the program and the coach's resume recruit way more than the coach's actual recruiting abilities. Is that fair? Is that a fair statement?
That's a fair statement. That is a fair statement. And we talked about retaining. So I want to throw this at you. You would now on this National Signing Day that is pretty much nothing. Would you trade Cooper Mays for 1 5-star? Because that's what they had to go after. That, and I know they're not apples and apples. Okay, it's not NIL money, but it kind of is too. You're going to have to promise a 5-star guy some cash. Would you rather have Cooper Mays or a 5-star, short and long term?
I mean, for the right, Cooper Mays. Cooper Mays.
Okay, Cooper Mays. All right, 2 5-stars.
I might go Cooper Mays.
I would too.
Still might go Cooper Mays.
I would too. 3 5-stars.
Yes. I'd still take Cooper Mays. He's worth 3 5-stars. Coming back.
I would too. And he's the ultimate example of the retainage guy. 4 5-stars. Where do we stop?
I mean, yes. I feel weird
Cooper
saying it.
Over 4 5-stars.
The 2002 class had 5 5-stars. How'd that class turn out?
Not great. All right. 5 5-stars. At what point would I have to get where you would say, I'd rather have that for the long-term talent level of the program as opposed to the elite player? And Cooper Mays is elite. He's all SEC right now.
Okay, I'll go. I think I'll draw the line at 5. I think 5 is a good line draw. And the reason I say 5 is at that point, it's like, okay, you're bound to keep at least 3 of those in the program, right?
Well, that's the factor. And you brought up a great point. The 50, 60%, I think is a pretty good number of the guys that you're going to keep. So if Tennessee gets 5 5-stars, do they have 2.5 because they have to split the wide receiver at some point? It would honestly be because of where Tennessee is in a program, and this would sound stupid, like Brock Bowers. Like, if I'm Georgia, I'd rather have a year out of maybe Brock Bowers, but I'd rather have 6 5-stars because I believe there's another guy that is a lower level player than Brock Bowers, but a guy that can go ahead and make plays for you and be a fill-in. So, and when you talk about 50 or 60% are actually going to make an impact because they're going to transfer somewhere else, yeah, I think you have to get to 5 before you would trade a Cooper Mays for that. Now, Smoky Mountain Red says, and let me bring it up. He says, sorry, Coop, but a solid 5-star line with Nico, I will take that any day. You would be. It takes most of the time for offensive linemen. That's why I like Lance Hurd so much. Most of the time for offensive linemen, you don't even get in the rotation in the SEC, right? I mean, you're just sitting there trying to put on weight. So you would have that line be an impact maybe in 2025. It wouldn't be an impact in 2024, and 2025 is arguable. So I get where you're going. Mead says all 3 stars and a boatload of steroids. Unstoppable, Nebraska style. Bring it. I love it. Bowers is balding. I can diagnose that for him. It may be the juice. Is that what we're saying? That Brock Bowers is on the juice. So our new topic is Brock Bowers on the juice?
Well, are we sure? Because we heard Nebraska style, and then I heard the juice, and you know where I'm going with that. So,
well, listen, I'm kind of, maybe I'm a libertarian. I'm kind of of the mindset, as long as you don't get caught, go for it. I got no problem with that.
No, not with steroids. That ruins people's bodies. Okay, there was a suicide outbreak of high school kids.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
Okay, all right. No, it doesn't. Because I know people in testosterone that at 60 years old look better than you, and you're in your mid-30s. So I'm just telling you, now long-term, there might be an issue. But anyway.
That's the problem long-term. If you're having to compete and play a sport, you're doing it over a 10-year period. It's a long-term thing that's going to damage your body.
Look buff and be a fantastic football? Okay, let me ask you this then, Caleb. I'm not going to get too sidetracked. But if somebody came to you and said, I can give you this magic juice and it's going to make you the best broadcaster writer ever, and it's going to mean a financial change for your family and the family tree, but it's going to lop 10 years off of your life, would you do it?
Probably would, but that's not the point. You're right, I would do, but then
point.
No, it's not.
That's
Because
my
then,
point.
wait, here's the problem. Then to compete, everybody would have to do it. So even if you want to compete and you don't want to put your body at risk, now to make it a fair playing field, you have to do that. That's my problem with steroids. My issue with steroids is not if a player does it himself and wants to ruin his life. It's that if it becomes widespread, then to compete, you have to be able to do it.
Here's the bottom line, and maybe, just maybe pushing 50, I've done my research, Caleb. There are performance enhancing things that you can do, such as LASIK. Okay. And I've done that thanks to Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Haun. There are other performance enhancing. There are other, where you draw the line is interesting, but it's a lot safer than you might think. The problem is you could get addicted to the results of it, and then suddenly you're not cycling off. Not that I've done any research. All right.
And by the way, women prefer the dad bod to steroids. That is true. Great point, Colton. Women prefer the dad bod.
Do they prefer the dad bod? I don't know. I mean, I think, okay, I'm very surprised, and I hope this isn't just blind allegiance, but National Signing Day and Vols don't have a top 10 class. How does that sit with you? Still building, all good. I get 73% of the vote. I can live with it. 22% of the vote. Josh Heupel has to recruit better. 5%. Guys, I want to be honest with you. I think you're looking at this a little bit with orange glasses. I do believe Tennessee has to recruit better long term. I don't think 12 for the next 5 years is going to make it 12th best in the nation. Do you?
No, I still think it will. This is my debate with you. Okay. I think it will. I think because I think Tennessee's going to apply. Here's a way to think about it. Just one real quick thing. If you focus on experience, it means you're not going to be a powerhouse every year, right? But that means every 2 or 3 years, you put a national title contender on the floor. Is that fair to say? And isn't that, if you're Tennessee and you have a legit title caliber team every 3 years, isn't that a pretty good deal?
Yes. There
you go.
Okay. I'm not totally arguing with you. I think you can do it more than one way. I think you are talking about Jim Harbaugh, who's one of the better coaches of our generation, given what he's done in the NFL and college. So if Josh Heupel's that, then certainly he can take a bunch of 12th rated classes and turn them into a national champion. We're arguing dad bod, but they want the lights off. It's a fair trade. Hey, whoa.